Hey guys, welcome to Man Card Monday. This is a new series that I am going to be starting, and I know it's really hard to make cards for guys, and so I figured a weekly card for guys would be appreciated by so many crafters out there. And so here is version number 1. So this is a super fun card, and I have the cacti on the inside as well, and it just ties everything together so nicely. So we are going to put this card together. So in these videos, likely you will not see me give you dimensions on the pieces, and that's because I'm going to be taking these patterns out of the Make It From Your Heart books. These are published books that you can get through me or through your Close to My Heart consultant. And because they're published, I cannot give away that information. That's a big no-no. So we're not going to do that. But I will tell you where you can find them. For example, this is in the Make It From Your Heart Volume 4, and this is pattern number 12. And so go to that book, look up that pattern. You will be able to get all of those dimensions. If you don't have that book, trust me, you're going to want to get the book. There are so many different things in there. So if you're a card maker, volume 4 is all for you. It is all cards, and they have so many examples for every single card. It's great. So check out that book. If you don't have it, let me know. I can help you get it. And yeah, this will be fun. So week 1, version 1, volume 1, whatever you want to call it. This is what we're going to do. So we're going to do things, well, first things first. We are using the C1751 sticky notes. So this is a super fun set with all sorts of different cacti plants, a little aloe plant, and yeah, all sorts of fun stuff. So we are going to be using that today. So we're going to do some of our stamping so that that can be done and it can dry a little bit, because we are going to use the archival black ink. If it's dry, it's okay to use with watercolors. So we want to give that just a bit to dry. So I do have a piece of cardstock. This is just, it literally is scrap. You can see it's torn on the end. So I do have the stamps that we're using already blocked up and ready to go. And I'll talk about this one here in just a moment. But first things first. Again, archival black. And these ones we are just stamping to make sure that they fit on the paper. They do not have to have any extra room because we are going to cut them out. As you can see on the card here, we are cutting them out right along the edge. We are not giving them any extra breathing room or anything. For my archival black, I like to hold it down for a few seconds after I put it to my paper, and I get great results that way. Alright, so we have that. Next we need our white piece, and we're going to do the greeting first. So the greeting is not quite centered. It is off to the left just a little bit, and that's just to make room for our cacti here. So normally I would have this on this smaller block, but because we're trying to center it, well, slightly off center it, it's easier if you can see the whole paper, and so that's why I have it on this larger block. So this is the 1 by 6.5 inch block, and it is great for so many things, and this being one of those things. So this would be center, so we're going to move it just a smidge. Again, I'm not going to rock it, I'm just going to press it down for just a few seconds. Perfect. Now what you may or may not be able to see on this block, you can just barely see it, there is an engraved line, and that's to help you get your sentiments or whatever you're stamping straight on your block, so it makes lining things up a little bit easier. In most cases you would line it up at the bottom, but in this case I lined it up across the top of the thanks because that's the straightest part of the whole thing. Alright, so I need a piece of scratch paper. Because we are going to stamp our cactus off the top of this. So we are stamping right here, and this is not an exact science, this is what looks good to you. And then we are going to stamp again slightly above and slightly, ooh, I might have cut that one a little bit close. I did cut it close, but it's okay. So we're going to do it slightly above and slightly to the right so it does overlap. So you can see that kind of here. All right, excuse me. So we are done with that one, so we're going to set that aside. And then we also want to stamp our card on the inside of our card. So this is one of the value pack of cards. They come pre-scored. So the part that is indented you want on the outside of your card. The part that bumps up you want on the inside of your card. And so we are going to before we do that, I'm just taking a little post-it note and I'm going to have my sticky side on the right side. Oops. And then I am just going to stamp this, and this is second generation, so it's going to be light. And I just want it so that this edge is here along the right side, which is the sticky edge. Excuse me. And then I am going to use the microtip scissors, and I am just going to quick cut along the right side of our cactus here. And then just the right side of the bloom and just along the first top one. I won't need more than that for a mask. All right, so now we have a mask, and this mask can be used a few times, and it is sticky along this side. So we are going to stamp. And again, this is personal preference on how close you want these stamped. And then we're going to let that dry for just a few moments. And then we're going to put on our mask. I'm going to cut away this corner as well so that we can line it up a little bit easier. And we are just going to line this up. And then what I'm going to try to do here is pay attention to where this inside left line of spines is on the back one, and try to get that in far enough so that the spines that are showing through so they don't intersect too much, because I thought it looked kind of a little bit silly if I had them cross too much. They became one lump, and I did not like how that looked. And so there you can see now that we have our spines from the first one that still show up over the back of the top one, but we don't have anything overlapping too much. We have a little bit down here and a little bit up here, but that's okay. It's not too distracting. So keep your little mask, and you can use that again. All right, so we are done with our archival black. And we're going to let that dry a little bit more. And we're actually done with all of our stamping. Okay, so on my piece, I did ink up my sentiment strip with Heather ink, although I did not do my other pieces, so I think I'm going to do all of my pieces this time. So I just have a 1/6 of a round sponge. I think it's a 1/6. It might be smaller. Before we do that, let's cut this into a banner first. Then we can just do all of it at the same time. So on these banner cuts, or dovetail cuts, however you like to refer to them, I have found that the easiest way to do them is just to do a snip in the middle and then go from one corner to the top of that snip. And then I flip it over and then do from the other side as well. You don't have to flip it over, you can turn it around. I just found it's easier to flip it over. All right, I'm gonna let that dry for a smidge longer. I shouldn't have to, but I don't want to be worried about it. So I'm just tapping into my ink with my sponge and just doing a quick inking on all 4 sides of each of my papers here. And this just helps them pop just a little bit more than they did on this card. And then it'll also hide the white core of the cardstock just a little bit. It's not noticeable, and so it's not necessarily distracting on this card because of how much white is on the card. But some people don't like that look. Some people don't mind. So however you want to do your distressing, or maybe you don't want to do the distressing, it's up to you. You can do it with a sponge, you can do direct ink pad to paper, like that, or you can do a sharper angle. Lots of different ways. Alright, so this piece is done for now. Now we are going to watercolor these cacti. So I did some searching on the internet, and there are tons of different ways that you can do this. So this is what I did. I think it looks kind of cool. It's up to you how you want to do it. But this is what I used. So I used these 4 pencils and my small water brush, my small round water brush. So they don't have colors listed on them, but these are the watercolor pencils that we carry. So this is kind of an orangey color. We have 2 greens. One is a brighter green and one is more of a olive green. And then we have a pencil that's similar to the saffron ink. So on my card I did not do the inside. I probably wouldn't do the inside because it's not watercolor paper and I wouldn't want it to warp that paper. This scrap is also not watercolor paper, so we're going to go super light on the water. But as you can see, they turned out really great. I think they turned out really great. Alright, so we're going to go with our lighter green first, and we are going to color the outside. Along the outside, we're going to color along all of the spine creases here in our cactus. And we're going to do both sides of the lines and the outside. And we're going to make the inside here a little bit thicker. And I also do the crown and the base of the cactus, just because it's going to be more green there. And then I'm going to fill in the middles here with the yellow. I'm not pressing super hard here on this yellow, but when I do this flower up top, I am putting a lot of color down. And I think you can maybe see the difference in the look of the pencil on the paper. Like this one looks a little bit more waxy than this does. It's not waxy, but you know, the look. All right, I'll come back to that one here in a second. And then I just did kind of a little burst of this orange here at the base of the flower. So we are going to turn and do the exact same thing. And even though we are doing the exact same thing, our look is probably going to be different from one cactus to the other. And that's okay. And you can be messy with this because, like I said, we are cutting this out. I mean, you don't want to be too messy. You don't want to get the green into the yellow because then it just looks like a disaster. But you don't have to stay inside the outside lines. All right, so now I am going to take the darker green and I am going to do some coloring at the base, and I'm going to do most of that along the side that has the shadow. So we have our black shadow here. And I forgot to color the bloom on that one. And then what you also want to do is determine, you're going to have to predetermine which cactus you want to be the top cactus and which cactus you want to be the bottom cactus, because you want to add a little bit more shadow on the back one, just because it's going to be behind. So we will make this guy our back one, and so we're just going to bring this up just a little bit higher on that. And it may not actually even show, so that's okay. All right, then we're going to take our water brush. We're going to start with our front one, and we are going to make sure that we have some water. Do not squeeze over your project because you will get drips. And this particular water brush seems to be having some issues the last few days. So if I have too much water in it, it'll just drip, drip, drip. So I don't want it to do that. All right, so we are just going to color along the green and mix in that yellow. Try to do the green first and then go over the yellow as well. And this has a lot of water on it right now. So I'm just going to squeeze it out with my fingers a little bit. And then you can just kind of blend some of the yellow with the green, so it's not harsh lines. And then before you go up and do the bloom, you want to go to do the other side so you don't mix your green of your cactus in with the yellow of your bloom. Then you're just going to take your scrap paper and you're going to just brush off until you have a clear brush. And then you are going to start with the top of your yellow, trying to stay out of the orange to get that mixed in, and then go do your orange. And then again, brush off before you go back and do the yellow again on your other cactus bloom. All right, and you are done watercoloring. So we're going to let those dry, and we will put our card together. Okay, so I am going to be using my liquid glass and also some thin 3D foam dots and some foam tape from the Window Shaker acetate and foam package. They are super handy. And before I glue anything down, I want to lay it out. So we are going to center this orange piece. We'll lay our charcoal piece over top, and then we will center our plus paper with our orange. Now I do have my charcoal off center, but you can center it 100%. Okay, so I am using liquid glass because since we are centering, I want to be able to move it a little bit. And it just clogged again. And I keep a pin in it just in case it clogs up a little bit. So I'm going to press that down. I'm going to flip it over, and I'm going to burnish that with my bone folder. That helps spread out the glue so there aren't any lumps and bumps underneath, distracting from our card. And then we will do our charcoal layer. And again, line this one up how you would, what makes you happy. I like it a little bit off center. And yes, again, I am going to burnish. And then one more layer. We are going to center this on the orange. Again, you can totally line it up with some grid paper or your Versamat, or you can just eyeball it. Okay, so I'm not going to put any foam on here just yet until we get our cacti glued onto our strip here. So these are going to dry. Because I did not want to make you guys wait, I did color 2 more already and cut them out because nobody likes watching fussy. Most people don't like watching fussy cutting. So we have done that. So I'm going to set that aside. And then my next little trick to give it a very polished look is to take your pen, your black pen, and do an outline on the edge. So this one I have finished, and I know you cannot necessarily see that, but you can see this one, this front one has a little bit of a white edge and the back one does not. So I did most of this one, but I did want to show you how I do that. So I've done just more than half on this. So I hold mine like this. How you hold it is up to you. And then I use my thumb to protect the pretty surface, the front surface, so that I do not accidentally draw on all my hard work. And I'm just going to go around and just make all of the edges black. And what this does is it ties the stamped image through to the outside edges of the image, and it just makes it look nicer. So it does not look bad if you don't do this. It just looks a little bit nicer if you do it. All right, and now that's done as well. You could use an alcohol marker to do that. The alcohol ink sinks into the paper really quickly, so then you get a really bold outline. So if you are going to do something with straight edges, like if I wanted to do these, you can totally do that. I would put it down on a piece of scrap paper and just do a quick swipe alongside it. So that is something that you can do. All right, so on this one, it looks like this is my back one, and so I am going to glue this directly onto my sentiment piece. So I'm just going to put some liquid glass here on my cardstock, not going over into the front piece, although if you do a little bit, that's okay. And the liquid glass is great because it allows you a little bit of wiggle to be able to make sure everything is lined up correctly. All right, so we have our first cactus hangs off the edge there. So then we're going to use our thin foam dots, and I am going to cut one of these large ones in half, and I've already cut one of the small ones in half when I did my sample here. And I'm going to use my piercing tool to get these off. These are easy to get off with your fingers, but I wanted to be able to make sure I was placing them correctly, so that's why I'm using my piercing tool. I just pull these off and line them up. Again, we're still working on this sentiment strip, and everything is going on here. And this way we know everything is lined up where it needs to be. It's not going to hang over where it shouldn't, and all of that. All right, so then we're going to peel off the backings. And put on our front cactus. And we are just going to line up the bottom and all of the lines. All right, so now we have that is ready to be put on the front of the card. I do like to have a good amount of foam tape on anything that's popped up, because I do not want it to sink in when I'm giving it to someone, because then I think it looks kind of cheap and cheesy, and I don't want that. So I do have a few pieces that I've cut already into little strips, and we want to make sure to do this correctly. So on our back piece, we want one of our, I had one that's a little bit larger. So we want just one of our shaker pieces. And then on the top one, so the one that's most out, we want 2 layers. So we want, actually what I'm going to do is I'm going to do 3 of these little ones. So 2 of them essentially match one layer. It's not quite the same. It's close, but it's not quite the same. So 2 of them match our layer, but then if you remember, we popped that one up with a thin foam dot, so we want another one. So now it's fairly even. It's not perfect, but it's pretty close. All right, and now we can take off all of our foam backers. And this part is almost as fun as watching somebody fussy cut, so I do apologize for that. But it's a part of crafting, right? If you want to add dimension, you got to deal with the backers. And my fingernails are really short recently, so it makes it hard. All right, almost done. Make sure to grab the one off of our cactus. I gotta pull them off, both of them. Sometimes a piercing tool helps a lot. That actually was really easy. So if you are having problems getting your foam backers off, try a piercing tool. Before we do this though, let's burnish our card. It's easier to do before you have your foam pieces on, but it's easier to decorate the front if it's completely flat and you don't have to worry about it popping open. All right, so this piece, we are just going to center it right smack dab in the middle. All right, and we are almost done. Now we just need to add some bling. All right, so this is what I have left in this particular package, so we are going to make it work. So you can do whatever makes you happy. I do recommend doing odd numbers because the eye likes to travel in triangles when it's looking at things. It makes the eye happy, and that's what we want to do, right? We want to make the eye happy. All right, and so there we have both of our cards done together. What do you think? I think these are great guy cards. I hope you agree, and I hope you will join me every Monday for a Man Card Monday and show me what you do. So thanks for joining me. See you next week and have a good one. Bye-bye.